Welcome to the Ultimate Landscape CEO podcast. We have Chad Simmons about to join us. Playrite, an artificial turf company from Knoxville, 1.8 million with only 6 employees. Chad is going to share with us how he got into that business and how he pulls that off. We dive into some specifics like how his strategy for investing in employees first before he has the right position for them. We talk about competition and how he really uses competition to drive his company. And we also talk about his vendor relationships and how he's made that part of his strategic advantage. If you've ever wondered about artificial turf, you're going to learn a lot at the beginning and at the very end. We get into some specifics. We also dive into barbecue. Now, you know I'm a barbecue experimenter. So is Chad. He's got a long history of barbecuing. He's got his own special sauces. And so the second half of this podcast, we get into some of his favorite recipes, some of his secrets. I share a couple of mine. Mine are not as awesome as his, but in total, you'll definitely learn about smoking and barbecuing on this podcast as well. Here we go. Good morning, Chad. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, good morning, Jeffrey. Thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate it.
So tell the audience a little bit about you, your company. What do you do?
Yeah, my name is Chad Simmons. I am the owner of Playrite LLC. We have been in business for 30 years. We've been installing artificial turf for 20 years. We do about 1.8 million a year. We have 6 employees, and we're just rocking and rolling.
Wait a minute. We need to do the math on revenue per man or woman per year. That's pretty high.
Yeah. You know, we have always kind of run real lean and mean. We try to keep overhead as low as possible. Some of it is by design. Some of it is, maybe a reluctancy to grow.
Well, you're working with me now, so you will be growing.
That's right. That's right.
So are you more efficient than typical? Well, explain the product a bit more, what you do.
Yeah, so we install artificial turf. So that's everything from a backyard putting green. That could be a backyard. That could be a dog park. That could be a playground. That could be a football or soccer field. We really nothing too big or too small.
Really? What's the smallest?
Smallest, we do a lot of, there's a lot of spec neighborhoods going in our area. We're in Knoxville, Tennessee. So sometimes you'll get, a 500 square foot backyard of maybe a condo or something where people have a hard time getting mowers in there, or they've got pets that they want to have a clean space for their pets. So usually, around 500 square feet is kind of the smallest.
What's the biggest you've done?
Oh gosh, biggest. Well, football fields and soccer fields are pretty big. They are anywhere from 90 to 120,000 square feet. We don't really focus on the field market too much. Some of our commercial jobs we've done, they could be upwards to 40 to 60,000 square feet for some of the bigger ones. On average, I would say most commercials are going to be about 10,000 square feet. Most residential is going to be somewhere between 2,000 and 5,000 square feet.
Okay. So let's hear a little bit about the history. How did you get into this? You're a young guy, but the company's 30 years old.
Yep. My dad started this company back in 1993. And back then we just installed, constructed, and resurfaced tennis courts and basketball courts. Well, in 1999, the city of Maryville, which is just the next place over, they wanted to install 5 synthetic tennis courts. Well, back then, no one really did much with synthetic. No one knew anything about it. The most you ever saw it was maybe here and there on an NFL field. But we wanted to give it a shot. We thought it'd be a good opportunity. And Had no idea what we were doing. Back then there wasn't, YouTube videos you could go watch. There weren't a lot of resources out there to learn how to do it. So we just, kind of had a can-do attitude and said, let's try it. Well, it turned out great. And a few years later, as I'm coming into the company more on a permanent basis, we're looking at how we're going to grow. And we kind of started gearing. We were thought back to that artificial turf job we did, and we started looking into artificial putting greens. So we did our first artificial turf putting green, residential, in 2004. And again, turf was virtually unknown at that point, artificial anyway. But the putting greens turned into yards, and then yards turned into dog parks. Dog parks turned into playgrounds. Playgrounds turned into football and soccer fields. And it kind of just kept going from there.
Yeah. Okay. And so your dad, I'm assuming you became the boss. And so how did that transition happen?
It was a very long, arduous transition. Me and my dad are both very, very stubborn people. And there, in any family business, there is a lot of I guess, back and forth on where the company should go. It wasn't until about 2010, I believe, where I officially took over, and they kind of hung around and were still involved, but very, very little at that point. They'd come out to some of the installs. But from there, it was, they've done a really good job. Most family businesses that I've had experience with or have talked to people about, the parents who start the business always have a hard time letting go. Well, my parents did a great job. They were very supportive, and they kind of just let me take it and run. They were kind of ready to move on to their next thing. They were already involved in commercial real estate, so they were trying to find a way out. And it just so happened that I was coming up and kind of ready to go. So after a bit of back and forth and you should do it this way, you should do it this way, they finally saw that I was capable of doing it and kind of just let me take it, which was I'm very grateful for sure.
Did you buy them out officially, or is it all unofficial?
Yeah, it was more unofficial, I guess. It was kind of like a you're going to draw so much from the company every year until we reached a kind of set buyout number. So they were, as they're not involved, they're basically just pulling a draw like a normal owner would. Mm-hmm. And that went on for about 5 years.
Yeah. So you are very focused. It's interesting how almost all, not all, but so many landscape firms really expand almost too quickly, I think. But certainly there's a lot of expansion in services, and you are just, we do one thing, we do it super, super well. So for the audience, what do you think the pros and cons are of that for you? Like, what have you experienced?
That's a great question. I'd say I'll start with the cons. I think the cons are we are very, very niche. We don't offer a lot of services, where other people have multiple verticals that they can, draw revenue from. We don't have that. We do one thing. It can keep you from growing at some point, especially in the early days when we might do one job a month, maybe.
When?
In the very early days when we were starting out, the mid to kind of like 2004, 5, 6, 7. We would only do a couple jobs a month, but it was just us, so we had no overhead. It was just our cost and our time, and margins were pretty good, so it didn't we didn't need a lot back then. So I think not having all those other avenues for revenue does make it tough for sure. But on the flip side, we are really good at what we do. We, really pride ourselves in our quality of work. There's no one that has nearly the amount of experience we do. And we're very fortunate to have been doing this so long that we've been able to partner with, multiple general contractors, pool builders, landscapers, hardscapers. They've always come to us, and we've subbed out and made some incredible relationships and partnerships throughout the years.
You subbed out, meaning you are the sub?
Correct.
So at 1.8 million, do you still have holes in your schedule?
No, not really anymore. It hasn't always been that way. I would say, as the market has really grown, it's been artificial turf has been real popular out west for a long time. They get tax credits for not using water. Mm-hmm. It took it a long time to kind of come east over here to Tennessee. So I would say it's probably been the last, 3 or 4 years where we've stayed consistently booked, and we've even had, rollover to the next year.
Mm. How far out are you normally?
We try to stay 8 weeks at max. Sometimes, that, and especially in the dead of summer or the really busy season, it can jump out there, but we're working on strategies right now to keep that from happening, working on growth and adding some key people and increasing our crews. And
some companies love that and embrace it. Others are a little worried about it. It depends on your market and the market expectations, but it certainly gives you confidence in pricing and et cetera.
Yeah. And it makes it a lot easier to really, that was what kept a lot of our growth from happening. Is we just didn't have the confidence. I didn't want to go and hire a bunch of people, buy a bunch of equipment, have all that overhead, and then have, weeks at a time where we might not have work to do. So it, like I said, it's only been, the last probably 4 years where we've really, really been just going full blast.
At 1.8 million and 6 people, you can afford to make a hire or two.
Yeah. And that's what we're doing now. We've got a pretty good strategy for the hires we're going to make this year. We've made a bunch of them, really a bunch of them since you and I started talking, kind of middle summer last year.
Yeah.
So we're really, really kind of gearing up to meet this demand that's coming.
Yep. Okay, excellent. So you mentioned to me that you've seen competition as a good thing for you. Tell us, what does that mean?
Yeah. It's weird because for the longest time we were the only guys in town that did this. Turf wasn't in high demand, and you'd be driving past somewhere and you see there's turf installed over there, and we didn't do it. Mm-hmm. And that would really bother me. Would really bother me.
Yeah.
And I always kind of was nervous about competition, and there's not because back then there wasn't enough work really to keep us busy. So it's man, how are we going to grow if more people are entering this market? And people started entering the market, and I found that competition is actually a really good thing because, one, it's getting the product out there. It's increasing the awareness.
Yeah.
Two, people who might not have contacted us before, who maybe have contacted one of our competitors who is not as experienced or who can't price as well as we do, they'll contact us after the fact. So we've probably, gotten business just from other people proposing a similar job.
Yeah. Okay. So it's the old 2 or 3 gas stations on a corner gets each gas station more business than if it was just one gas station.
Right. And it took me a long time to kind of figure that out because,
and
like I said, we were the only guys.
what you're also saying is you've got the better gas station.
We like to think so, or we sure strive to be the best.
Do you? Well, people will go to the other gas station. They're like, "Oh, we're going to try the cleaner, nicer looking Playrite across the street."
The one with the bright lights, the one with the bright lights and the clean bathrooms, right?
Yeah. So, do you also use the competition internally in your discussions to rile up your team and us versus them?
Oh yeah,
And how do you?
100%. Especially on some of like the high profile jobs, the ones that we really want to get these because this is a big development that's happening. This is a big high profile client. We really say, look, we got to win this one, guys. We got to get this one, and it's got to be perfect because we want everyone else out there seeing that we're getting these jobs. We want everybody to know who we are and where we stand on these things.
Who's the most famous person you've worked for that you're not supposed to mention?
I don't think I would have a problem mentioning. We do a lot of work for Dollywood. So Dolly, who's I think just had a birthday or getting ready to have one. We partnered with them for since 2016 or 17. We've done all of the turf at their theme parks. We have done a bunch of different projects at their Dreamo Resort, and we just finished one this past fall at their new Heart Song Resort. And what's really nice is most of those were all done with general contractors, and they would request us specifically. So that's always
Dolly's husband. Like, this guy is almost nobody knows who he is.
I can't say that I have, but I know that Dolly has herself walked on our turf. So that's nice to know.
Have you ever had to sign an NDA as a subcontractor?
Not to this point, no. They do have something. You'll get some things where you can't use their logos or their likenesses and some of your marketing materials, your social media stuff. But no, we haven't come across that yet.
Has a client ever directly asked you to sign an NDA?
No, they haven't.
Okay, maybe you've got to climb up another half notch to the
I think so.
Famous and paranoid.
Yeah. We have done. We did a couple different projects for. We're in Knoxville, like I said. So the University of Tennessee is just a few miles down the road. We've done a couple projects for Coach Heupel over there, and the only thing they've asked is, don't share your location. Don't let people know where we are.
Yeah.
But great. They're great people. Fun to work with.
You've done work for the Lawn Butler. How's that been?
That's great. Yeah, we have a really good partnership. I know that Seth over there, he's been a friend and a client of yours for a long time. I actually grew up with Seth. We lived in the same neighborhood in middle school and went to high school together. So I've known Seth for a really long time and been a great partnership. They sub us out for, pretty much any job that they have that includes artificial. So they're a really great partner in the industry.
Yeah.
And Seth gets his haircut right next door to our office. So he pops in, once every 5 weeks and says, hey.
I figured with Seth, it would be like once every 3 weeks.
Yeah. He keeps it pretty high and tight.
High and tight. So you were mentioning to me about vendor relationships being especially important for your business, and it's interesting because we don't talk a lot about vendor relationships on our podcast. And I should bring on some CFOs or integrators, COOs. I have a few clients that they just have awesome negotiating and vendor strategies. But that discussion's for another day. But tell us yours.
Yeah, so we kind of look at vendor relationships just like we do our client relationships. The guys who we have a guy, for example, who delivers our turf for us. We don't really warehouse a whole lot, so we have a lot of deliveries, and we've been using the same guy for 15 years probably, and he runs us hotshot routes from the manufacturer straight to our warehouse or to the job site. and we can always count on him. We can always count on him. We pay him fast, and he is always exactly where it says he's going to be when he's going to be there, when he says he's going to be there. Same with other relationships, like the guys at the stone quarry who deliver our stone. We try to use the same guys over and over again. They know us. We know them. It just makes daily operations so much easier when you have really good vendor relationships. We use a lot of roll-off dumpsters. So we have, a small handful of companies that provide those. And, getting these guys paid quickly, getting, them in and out. Like when turf shows up, our goal is to get that turf unloaded the second it's there and get them on their way so they can go about their day. Mm-hmm. And from what I hear, that's somewhat uncommon for a lot of places. But, these vendors, they appreciate that. And they know that when they show up on one of your job sites, you're going to be ready for them. You're going to be fast. You're going to be efficient, and you're going to get them out of there so they can go do their next thing.
How does that help you, or how has it helped you also become more efficient?
I think one way is that we know we can count on these guys. We know that, if they say they're going to be at a job site at a certain time, we know they're going to be there. Mm-hmm. We know that for stone, for example, we know that we're going to have the right quantities. We know that we're going to have the right types of stone. It just makes us be able to keep our projects moving forward so much more quickly and smoothly without, errors or delays.
Gotcha. Lastly, you mentioned to me that you feel like one of your ahas has been your hiring strategy. Instead of looking to fill positions, you really look for great people that mm-hmm. Will be a great fit, and then you figure out the position. Now, that's my words. Can you elaborate in your own words on that?
Yeah. I always say, we want to get the right guys on the bus, and then we'll figure out where the bus is going from there. When you come across somebody who's just a really good fit for you, I think that we're pretty stringent on who we hire. We don't hire somebody unless we're spending, how much of our day, how much of our week, how much of our month with these people. We want to like them. We want to get along with them. We want them to be excited. We want to be excited.
Yeah.
So getting the right guys is really, guys and girls, obviously, is really important. I think, it makes your day to day so much better. We can, when it comes to like installers, we look for enthusiasm and attitude. We can train these guys on whatever they need to know, but we want some kind of like core qualities that really, help us build up, help everybody else want to do what they need to do. So if we can find guys with the right attitude and the right energy, we try to pick them up.
Yeah. Gotcha. How do you interview for attitude and enthusiasm? Do you have is it just like, when you see it, or do you have like a specific process?
Yeah, I don't really have a specific process. And I'll tell you, my wife says that if I have one spiritual gift, it's the gift of discernment. I'm pretty good at reading people and getting to know them quickly, I think. And I always ask, some dumb questions in the interview at first, like if you had a superpower, what would it be? And that tells you a lot about people's personalities,
Really? What's the craziest answer you've heard?
You hear time travel, you hear, obviously, flying is always a big one. I think the question throws people off guard a little bit. They don't expect to have, silly questions and icebreakers, I guess.
Yeah.
Get a lot of people who want to be invisible. So it's always a good mix, though.
So, all right, Chad, what would your superpower be?
Mine, I would say it's probably invisibility. I would love to be able to walk.
Really?
Especially at the office. I'd love to be able to walk around and no one know that I'm there.
I'd like to be Superman and be physically indestructible.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, as you get a little bit older, that would be like that'd be an awesome superpower.
Absolutely. Yeah. Especially as you're getting older and
I wouldn't even need to be able to fly. Like I would take just the indestructibility.
hey, you'd be able to run through walls. You wouldn't need to fly at that point, right?
That's right. I could run fast. So, let's see. I wanted to ask you another question there. But let's switch gears here a little bit. I was when you were, we did coaching together, and you came here, and I don't know how I told you this, but I was telling you about this new recipe I thought I had invented when it came to grilling steaks, where I put a steak on my grill and I decided to smoke it first at a low temperature and then bring it up to temperature. I kept my thermometer in it, and so it was like medium rare. It was perfect. It still got nice char on the outside, but not too much. And it had the smoky flavor. And I thought I had invented it. Silly assumption. And I told you, and you're like, "Oh yeah, I do that all the time." It's like, "Huh, okay." So, all right, Mr. Barbecue Master here, tell us what's your go-to barbecue?
Oh man, go-to is tough. I've been barbecuing for a really long time. I was probably 14 or 15. We used to have family reunions, and my dad bought a big giant smoker. I mean, it was a massive thing. It was on a trailer. You had to pull it with your truck to move it around.
Yeah.
And he never wanted to stay up all night with it and do it. So he would, convince me and my cousins or my friends to tend to the smoker. And we were terrible at it. We didn't know what we were doing. So I've been around it a long time, I guess. And then we did a putting green for another local business owner here, and she just so happens to own a pool and barbecue store. So after we did the putting green, I'm like, I'm going to go into the shop and I'm going to buy a big green egg. So that was kind of like my reintroduction to smoking again.
Yeah.
So if I'm going to pick, I usually do it based on how much time I have.
All right. Like, give me a short and a long, give me one of each.
Yeah. Okay. So a short cook, I got an hour or two. I'm either going to do my two favorite cuts of beef are tri-tip and picanha. Not a lot of people have heard of picanha before. It's basically like a sirloin top roast, but it's got a real nice fat cap on the top. And tri-tips are pretty hard to come by over here in East Tennessee. It's really a West Coast kind of cut. It's very popular over there. Yeah. But I did find a really good local butcher who readily keeps tri-tips in stock. So if I've got a couple hours, I'm going to do a tri-tip or a picanha, whichever one, looks the best that day.
Are they both equally tender?
I would say the picanha is probably a little more tender just because it's got that inch thick fat cap on the top. But if you I cook everything pretty much medium rare. So they all, they stay pretty dang tender.
Yeah.
But real simple, I do salt, pepper, garlic, and then I'll throw them either on the big smoker or the egg. Usually takes those things an hour and a half to come up to temp, which I usually pull them off the smoker somewhere around 100 degrees internal, 110. Set them to the side, 10 them up, and then I'll crank that egg up to 500, 600, 700 degrees, and throw it back on for a minute or two each side just to sear them up real nice. And
how long does it take you to raise the temp in the green egg like that?
If I've got a good charcoal base in there, not too long, maybe 10 minutes. maybe less.
You
It
just
really
open up
depends
both
on.
bottom and top drawer or
Oh
whatever.
yeah, just wide. Yeah, get her wide open, and sometimes I'll even take the leaf blower and shoot a little extra air into the intake just
Yeah.
to really get them going.
One thing I do on my steak is I put cayenne pepper on it.
That's what
The
you were telling
spice,
me.
yeah, the spice, the edge of the spice cooks off, so it just kind of leaves a
Hmm.
flavor and a little tiny spice. So that's my secret ingredient on my steak. What's so? I guess you don't really have a secret ingredient on your picanha.
No, not so much on the picanhas. Now, if I've got a little bit more time, if I got about 4 hours, I will do spare ribs, like St. Louis style spare ribs. And you see a lot of stuff online. And you know what some of these guys are doing. They always do like this 3-2-1 method: 3 hours, 2 hours, 1 hour.
Yeah.
I do mine on a 2 hour, 1 hour. So it's basically 2 hours in the smoke, and then after 2 hours, I wrap them up. And I'd like to say that I've got a secret ingredient because there's a pretty a lot of steps that go into this, but I will in the tinfoil I will put brown sugar, dark brown sugar, honey, and then parquet. Parquet is the liquid butter. It's
Oh,
in like a blue bottle at
parquet.
the grocery store.
Okay.
Parquet, yes. And then put those ribs face down onto all that, and then I make a it's kind of like a vinegar based sauce. It's like a East Carolina style sauce, and I'll pour that over the back of the ribs, wrap them up, put them back in there for another hour, and let them really like cook up in the tin foil.
Mm.
Um, then after that, pull them out, and I will rub them with, or I'll base them with another sauce that I make. It's a honey jalapeno sauce
Nice.
that is really great. I found, I kind of stumbled onto this recipe when I first started kind of getting back into everything. I was just doing a lot of research, and I'd find a recipe over here from these guys that I liked, and I'd find a recipe over here that I liked, and I would just kind of pick and choose the things that I thought would be good. And so I just kind of like sampled from a bunch of people's recipes, and this sauce came out. I mean, it's just amazing.
You know,
And I will,
go ahead. Sorry.
I'll base that sauce, or those ribs in that sauce, and then I'll put a little bit more of my rub on top just to give me even more color, and I'll stick them back on the smoker for another 20-30 minutes, however long it take for them to get really tacky. And I tell you, I've never had better ribs at a restaurant.
So I don't know if I'm a fan of beef ribs, but maybe if I do it your way, I will be.
Mostly I'm doing pork ribs. So
Oh,
the St. Louis style kind of like pork ribs.
gotcha. I
Yeah,
thought St. Louis was beef. Did I get that wrong?
well, the St. Louis is more the cut. So you have like baby back pork ribs or St.
Mm,
Louis pork ribs. They just come from a different side of the pig.
gotcha.
The baby backs kind of have like a rounded cap on the top of them. The St. Louis are pretty much flat, and then the cut is like a square kind of cut to it.
Yeah. I guess the one I've seen them in the store, they've been St. Louis beef. Am I remembering that
Yeah,
correctly?
yeah. So you could have some St. Louis cut beef ribs as well.
Gotcha. So I have an idea for you. It's a
Okay.
selfish idea. I'm giving this to you selfishly, but I think it's a good idea. You could start an online store with your different sauces and things because I'd like to buy them. Uh, but it could be a great secondary marketing channel for you.
Hey, you never know.
I
I will definitely make up a batch and send them to you, and I'll let you be the judge if
if
we should take them to market or.
but if you had a secondary business like that and a YouTube channel with it could get both your business name out there in a whole new way. I don't know, just a thought.
I always tell my wife that if the artificial turf thing ever doesn't work out, or I'm ready to move on to something else, I'm going to open up a barbecue store. So
Well, that's a whole different animal. But I think there's something there for you. So, question for you: a lot of debate whether the fat cap should be on top or on the bottom, and I hear the rationale for both. Do you have a?
Mm-hmm.
How do you do it?
So I've tried it both ways. I like the fat cap on top only because you don't have to clean off your grill as much after the fact. I haven't found that you're rendering that much fat to make it a difference for it to be running onto the meat, but that fat gets all onto your grill grates. And if you aren't, very meticulous about getting it off pretty quickly, it'll gunk them up. And, because a lot of times you get done cooking, you've been doing it for a while, you're taking the meat in, you're getting everything ready, you're setting up the table. You don't really want to mess with cleaning your grill. Just, you got other things you got to be doing, because usually the meat's the last thing to come off. And, so I've found that just for cleanup, fat cap up.
Yeah. Okay. Because I've read fat cap down so that it doesn't, at least with briskets, so that it doesn't remove the bark and kind of mess up the outer layer.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, I've seen that too. And I've always kind of just tried to experiment with things, try to, do it a little bit different every time to see if there's a, this way worked out really well.
Yeah.
I don't like this way. Same with kind of wrapping. A lot of people will wrap, their pork butts or their briskets or whatever, at a certain point to get it through the stall or to, keep it moist. I've done it both ways, and I really haven't found that there's that much difference. And kind of the same with the fat cap up or down. It all kind of tastes, the same once you're pulling it out.
But you do wrap your ribs to help them marinate.
Correct. Yeah, and to kind of steam them in there, and that's why I think you can do it for less time, and you still get it. They're not the typical fall off the bone type ribs. You take a bite and you can see where you bit them.
I've never liked fall off the bone ribs. That takes half the fun out, if you ask me.
Right. I'm with you there.
So I'm going to admit something that's going to make me look like an amateur, so don't laugh. But I didn't realize for a long while that you had to get the temperature up and the smoke to run clean before you put the meat in. Otherwise, you get the creosote. And my wife used to complain about, the smoky flavor is too strong. And I figured out that's what I was doing wrong.
Yep. And I learned that. It took me a long, long time to learn that. Back when we were cooking all the food for the family reunions, oh, buddy, that smoke was dirty. We had no idea how to run a clean fire. We had, dampers shut down, so there wasn't a lot of. You think that and you see it on the side of the road when you pass a barbecue stop or something. You see their smokers out, and you see all the big white smoke. That's all for show. The cleaner, they always talk about the blue smoke. You want to look for the blue smoke. You almost can't even see it. And that's when you've got the right air mixture on your fire, because it's not that dirty smoke, and that's what gives you the clean taste.
Air mixture and temperature.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So all right, I feel like I've just I've been with the priest here, and I gave my whatever you call that. So one last question. All right, so we covered short and medium, and what do you do? What's your favorite overnight grill or smoke?
Favorite overnight, you've got to, it's either, there's really, really two. Brisket is obviously awesome. You really can't beat a good brisket. My wife loves pulled pork. So we do a lot, if we're doing an overnight cook, it's usually a pork butt.
Yeah.
Just because, she loves pulled pork. So we do a lot of pork butts. I usually will do a brisket if we got a bunch of people coming over. You know, gosh, sometimes we've put pulled pork and briskets on the same night. But you know, you need a good, 12, 15 hours for those things, and then another couple hours to let them rest. So I would say we don't do nearly as many overnight cooks anymore, but it's always fun to kind of get out there, and especially I've got 3 young kids, so it's a nice quiet time by myself to sit and just relax a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Confession. I don't know why I couldn't remember that word. I felt like I was in confession when I was sharing that. What's the longest you've let it sit? Like some people say we're going to let it sit for 5 hours. The longer, the better. I'm like, really? Like, what do you think?
I think minimum is 2. I think, you could probably go 4. I've done 4 before. You always want to leave yourself enough time, because if you got, 20, 30 people coming over for a barbecue, you don't want everybody waiting on the meat, So, I've done them for an hour before, and they don't turn out nearly as well. The longer you can let them rest, I'm a proponent for as long as you can. That meat's not going to get cold. It's 203, 205 degrees internal. It's going to take it a long time to cool down to where it's, not a warm meat anymore. So
yeah.
I'd say minimum 2 hours, maximum as long as you got.
My wife and I used to do a brisket competition. It wasn't a competition in her mind. You know how this is.
Yeah.
She would do the inside one in the oven, and she's got this whole apricot recipe. And I won't tell you which ones people like better, but
I can deduct, I think.
But she's onto something, because I found a recipe, but it said to cover it up just the bottom half of the brisket, whatever that part's called, but not the top half. And I think she kind of overcovers it, but her recipe's been validated in my mind, because I found versions of it. So, and she does a spicy apricot. So
ooh, that does sound pretty good.
Her way.
Yeah. Yeah. Usually what I'll do is I'll just leave them I use a butcher paper when I'm wrapping pork butts and briskets, and I'll just keep them in that butcher paper. I'll wrap them again with like a beach towel or a towel, and then I'll throw them in a cooler and just let them sit.
Now, if you do it in a certain way, there's a lot of juice runoff. You save that?
Try to, yeah. I try to save it. If a lot of times, if the paper, the butcher paper, you're going to lose a lot of that juice. So a lot of times, I will, if I do the wrap during the cook, I'll take it out of the butcher paper and then put it into aluminum foil, and then I'll let them rest in there. So any juices that go out, at least you'll be able to save those and put them back in.
Let it rest in foil, you're saying? Yeah, gotcha.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. Hey, this has been a lot of fun. Is there anything you haven't done on barbecue that you're going to try next, or any other tip you want to share with us?
I think my next thing, the one thing that I have not done, and I'm really excited to, is pork belly. I have seen some incredible pork belly recipes, and I just haven't kind of, you always kind of go to the go-tos once you get your favorites down. But pork belly is one that I'm definitely on my list to go to. But as far as tips, I would say, don't be afraid of it. A lot of people think that it's tough or it's hard, or they don't want to ruin your meat. It doesn't matter. Just go out and do it, because I can't tell you how many pieces of meat that I've messed up or haven't been good. Anybody can do it. Just all you got to do is do a little bit of research, figure out how you like it, and go for it.
So I have a tip here, but I also have a tip for you on pork belly.
Okay,
so
great.
My wife has cobbled together or discovered a great recipe. She will she'll coat it in pink salt, but the curing pink salt, like the kind you're not supposed to eat. And then she has this other braise. I don't even know what's in it, but some kind of liquid, and she puts it in the fridge for 5 days.
Yeah.
And she'll turn it every day, right, so that it kind of covers the bottom half. And then after 5 days, she'll let it fridge dry. But then she puts another marinade on it for half a day, and then grills them in. Really, honestly, at that point, you can just grill them in the Weber for a few hours and renders all the fat down. Amazing. So
yeah.
if you need a recipe, email Corrine.
I will definitely. Yep. I'm definitely going to do it because that's one of the reasons I haven't done them before, is because I know that there's so many different ways to do them. And a lot of the recipes you see, or a lot of the methods you see out there are multiple days. And
it doesn't, yeah, but it's in the fridge. You're just turning it.
Right.
And then in the grill, you can just use the gas grill. It takes a couple hours because you can render off a lot of the fat. You can even burn them, really, and they're just so good. So here's just a tip in general. Another confession. I admitted to the world, I don't like turkey. Am I the only one? And I think there's a lot of people who actually don't like turkey. And so I have stopped making turkey for Thanksgiving. This past year, we did prime rib. Man, it was good. And
yes,
we didn't even add smoked wood. We just used the natural lump charcoal, and you have a thermometer and you can make it perfect. And it was mouth watering. I'm never doing turkey again.
I love a good prime rib, but I just made one the week right there between Christmas and New Year's. But you are not the only one who doesn't like turkey. My wife hates turkey.
Yeah.
She hates it. She will not buy turkey lunch meat. She will not buy turkey anything. Yeah. She does not like turkey. She will only buy chicken lunch meat. She doesn't like any kind of turkey at all. So you are definitely not alone in that.
I will admit, I like white meat leftovers on a sandwich with mayonnaise. But
that's fair. Yep.
I don't want to eat it like a turkey leg. None of that, please. Now, having said that, I'm sure there's people's renditions that are awesome. So I'm not taking anything away from that.
Have you tried a fried turkey?
My best friend fries a whole turkey, and I'm always out of town when he does it. So the answer is no. I
tell you, it might change the way you see turkey. I do a fried turkey every year for Thanksgiving. Either it depends on where we are. If we're at my wife's family, my family, or we're doing our Friendsgiving. Yeah. I'm usually frying at least one turkey every year, and they're amazing. They're amazing. You gotta try it.
Yeah, you know what? You're gonna have to overnight me a piece because my best friend won't save me any. So.
Yeah, I've actually got one in the freezer from Thanksgiving where we didn't. I forgot the turkey at home and I had to go buy another one. So I've got a spare one in the freezer right now that I'll fry up and send with some barbecue sauce to you.
All right. Any predictions back to artificial turf? Where's the industry going? Any predictions from your perspective?
Man, it's just growing. It's growing like crazy. Just from what we're seeing, we're seeing a lot of transplants from out west come into the South. I get so many calls from people who have just moved to town. They had artificial turf, over in Nevada or Arizona or California or wherever they came from, and they want it again because it's clean, it's neat, it's green all year, no maintenance. So I think it's only going up. That and the awareness of it is rising. We get a lot more calls, just want to know more about it. Before, people would either know they want it or don't. And now you get a lot of people just questioning, what is it? Tell us about it. Like, what benefit does this actually bring? Is it worth the investment to turn your yard into artificial turf?
Yeah.
So the market's going crazy, I think, and it's slow. Like I said, it's slowly moved from the west to the east, and I only see it going up and up.
Okay. Personal question here. So I've got a small backyard.
Mm-hmm.
We got 3 dogs, girl dogs. One of them has killer pee. It
Mm-hmm.
rains a lot as well, and it's easy for my little backyard to get ripped up. But we do a fair amount of entertaining. I mean, not a lot, but a fair amount. I do at least one annual crawfish boil where it's all kinds of people in the backyard.
Mm-hmm.
While landscape, we want it to look nice. And so I told one local landscaper about this who does artificial turf. He's like, hello, artificial turf. So it's a small piece of property. What do you think? Will I enjoy having that? And my wife loves her lawns in general. She's the one that takes
Mm-hmm.
care of them. Will we enjoy artificial turf in that type of intimate environment?
Oh, 100%. And this thing too, a lot of people when they think of artificial turf, they think of, the stuff that was out or available 10, 15 years ago, the stuff that you'd see people lining the floor of their boat with. And it's
Yeah.
not like that anymore. This stuff is realistic, it's soft, it's plush, it's beautiful. And if you've got dogs, it's almost a no-brainer. I mean, if you can imagine, especially if it's wet there, you got muddy paws coming in and out all the time,
Yeah.
that alleviates every bit of it. So I think you'd love it. It looks great all year. Well, you guys don't really have the winter like we do, a little further north. But it looks great all year long. Low maintenance. I mean, very little you ever have to do with it.
Okay.
Dogs love it. They'll roll around, scratch their back on it.
So when they poop on it, it just what? You just clean it up and it's easy, or
Yeah, it just sits right on top. There are turfs that are more designed for pet use in traffic, and those are usually a little shorter and denser, so that it doesn't kind of get down into those fibers. But yeah, you just clean it up. Every couple of days. You can pressure wash artificial as long as you're not doing it on a super high psi.
yeah.
You can pressure wash it, keep it clean. There
So
are tons of.
does the rain clean up the rest of the poop, or
I guess it depends on how big your dogs are. um, I would say, I mean, yeah, I would probably hose it off, every once a week or so.
Gotcha.
If there's a lot of anything residual, there's also a lot of cleaners that are specific, like enzyme cleaners that are specifically designed for artificial pet turf that you can buy on Amazon. You can buy, at any probably any landscape shop, maybe not landscape shops, but definitely on Amazon.
Yeah.
And they hook right up to your hose. You spray them on the turf, kills all the odor and bacteria, smells nice, keeps it looking great.
So how far do you travel?
We try to stay within, an hour or so,
Okay.
but I can definitely get a hold of my my network and find a good installer for you down there in New Orleans.
Yeah, sounds good. Chad, this has been awesome. We really appreciate you coming online and sharing some of the inside scoop on your business and on your green egg.
Hey, I really appreciate it, Jeffrey. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a big pleasure. I listened to all your podcasts, so it's great to be on one.
Yeah. And you're joining my newest peer group coming up, so that's going to be great.
Very excited. Very excited. March 3rd, I think, is our kickoff.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. All right. Excellent. Talk to you soon, buddy.
Take care. Bye-bye.